It's called a psalm of fearless trust in God. Fearless trust. Uh, Stockton, you help give me one of these. Thank you. And so, uh, understanding of that trust. Mike has said several times, I've appreciated working with him in gospel meetings. I've been a part of his presentations, like, for example, in Higdon, Arkansas, and other places. And he always reminds the audience that if you summed up the Bible in two words, those two words would be trust me. That God would say, trust me. This psalm is a commentary, you might say, on those words. Trust me. And the theme running through this psalm is found in the last verse, wait on the Lord. And the word wait there is not the common conception of just standing in idleness, like we oftentimes will wait on someone to pick us up, wait on someone for, coming to our house for supper or something of that nature. The idea is a dedicated service with a trust toward God. And so waiting on the Lord means I continue as in marching. In other words, I just keep on doing what I'm doing and trust God. And I'm talking about the righteous life. I'm not talking about the ungodly. I'm talking about the one that lives with their confidence in God. You do what you know to do. When things go wrong, you stay planted. That's what the first psalm taught us, remember? But he's like a tree planted by the rivers of water. When everything is upside down, when everything is in turbulence in your life, stay planted. Just don't throw all of that trash out of your mouth. Well, I don't know if God cares or not, or I don't. You just stay planted. There's an expression in the military, you continue as in marching. If it doesn't, or the bomb bursting in air, whatever the mission, you continue as in marching. And in your world, if it's coming apart at the seams, you continue as in marching. You keep the faith, you trust God, and you get on with life's mission. That's what you do. And so that's what this is about. It is a prayer for trust, a prayer asking for strength to trust. Also, there is wound in this, or embroidered in it, there is a difference in spirit when one is under pressure and then when all is well. It's easy to serve God when everything's going your way, isn't it? It is. All right. Well, it's difficult sometimes, and we start hitting obstacles, then it's difficult when things are not going well to continue trusting. My sweet wife, I was coming back from Lubbock one night. We were running late. Remember the snowstorm, blizzard conditions and all that, and we had to be out. It had to do with her health, and we were coming home, and I hit that ice right this side of Floydada, where them ditches are filled with water on each side of the road, which could have been a deadly thing. And that little old Subaru we had, it swapped ends twice, and it was going all over the road, and I was elbows and, I was fighting that little old car, and it, shoo, 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 I let it spin twice before I tried to straighten it up. And then when it finally, I got it straight, and it come around, and it stopped against where the snowplow, I said, whew. My wife said sweetly, well, it took you long enough. And I said, what? She said, well, I knew you'd get it straightened out, but it sure took you long enough. And now I was looking over the side window, and there was that trough of water, 5 or 6 foot deep, and is on the other side of the road. And I thought, if I had lost it off that road, that would have been a tragedy. But that was, That's just confidence that, yeah, I knew you'd get it, but, it took you long enough. At any rate, kind of confidence in you sometimes is kind of startling. You know yourself, you know your feet are clay and that you're just a man, but sometimes your spouse's confidence in you rattles you. But that's the confidence that David has, and that I'm going to maintain that trust in God, whether everything's going well or whether it's not. Everybody loves holding the baby when the baby's dry, when the baby's well fed, when it's not chapped. Everybody loves holding the baby like that, don't you? Guess what happens when it gets all cranked up and it's sour and it's and a green rope's are running out of its nose and its diaper smells to high heaven? Who gets it then? Mama does, yeah. Get this thing away, see? But the mother's love is constant. It's constant. Regardless of the condition the baby's in, Mama takes control. And Mama will carry out the necessary things to bring that baby back to happiness. She just does. And God bless mothers. And they do a wonderful, wonderful job at that. And God does that for us. He does that for us. And so this psalm is an affirmation to that. Why? Because the affirmation is that the Lord is my light and my salvation. It's going to be okay. That is that blessed assurance. Jesus is mine. Not just when everything is all right, but even in the terrible, terrible times of life when it seems that our faith is really stretched. But we've been taught to have it stretched. We've been taught by our peers, by our books, by our medical world and all of that, and that we never ought to be sick, that we never ought to experience a medical tragedy, that if we do have some kind of medical tragedy, what? Doctor's going to what? Fix it. Yeah, fix it. Okay? And, they don't. Baden Hayes had a longest back surgery I think I ever been close to, 13-something hours. I think mine was 4 or 5 hours, and then I've heard of other people kind of being in between all of that. But, sometimes it doesn't fix it. And people's had knee surgery. RC back there said, you had 2 knee surgeries, RC? Knee surgery. You've had 2 of them? 1. Yeah. But, some people's knee, the new one works fine and others don't. The doctor told me, hey, we're going to operate on your back, and we had 80% success. You know what you don't put yourself into? The 20%. You don't do it. And when you find yourself in it, then it creates all kind of problems because your head, hey, I thought 80%. Well, see, you're in the 20, and so you deal with what the 20 deals with. So we've been geared up to think everything ought to go right because we can fix everything. Well, this psalm shows us the confidence and the trust that we have in God. And so let's read it together and comment some as we go. Jehovah is my light and my salvation. So there, darkness is always an opposite to light. It's always representative of ungodliness. It's always represented wickedness, and it's always representative peril, those type things. So Jehovah is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Well, think a minute. Whom shall I fear? In 2 Kings chapter 6 and verse 14, Elisha asked God, open the eyes of my servants, that he might see. And the Bible says he saw the chariots of fire on the mountains round about. Elijah didn't see them. He just knew they were there. God didn't open Elijah's eyes that he could see. He opened the servant's eyes Because Elijah knew they were there already. Because his faith knew that God's hand was there. And so, whom shall I fear? Jehovah is the strength of my life. See that? Of whom shall I be afraid? Well, let's ask David. Are you afraid of Saul? Well, Saul's one throwing spears at him. David, are you afraid? Here you are, 15, 16 years old, and you're out here, and out of the thicket comes one of them straggly Palestinian lions that weighs about between 450 and 600 pounds. And here that thing comes bouncing out of the thicket, raging toward you with one thought in mind, that you're easier to kill than a sheep. Isn't that amazing? The human being is the easiest thing for animals to take down there is. You know? Any animal fights harder than we do in fighting a bear or a lion or a tiger or something like that. So we're a pretty easy prey for a raging bear, and David killed the bear. We are easy prey for a charging lion, and yet David took the lion by the beard. He closed with that thing. And so he's saying, of whom shall I be afraid? Is he qualified to say that? Yeah, you bet. You know, you can't imagine him being in the tussle with that lion, not getting a few scratches. Not getting a few scratches. Not getting a little bit clawed up. Yeah, of whom shall I be afraid? So there's Saul, tried to kill him several times, handpicked out of Benjamin, the finest fighting force of the then world, picked 3,000 handpicked soldiers among all the tribe of Benjamin, and went after David, and David had 38 men. That made 39, counting David. Was he afraid of Saul? His confidence was in God. When evildoers come upon me to eat my flesh, you can read that, to consume me. Even mine adversaries and my foes, they stumbled and fell. See, God is his source of strength. And so he's looking. You know, if you don't practice faith, you will never experience the past results of faith overcoming, and you cannot draw on the past experience. You know, the reason that you know you're able to do something normally is because you've done it before, and you're now able to do it. You know, in any kind of athletic team, you practice and practice and practice. A football team, basketball team, baseball team, softball team, you know, tennis, whatever it is. And when you get out there to play, there's a certain confidence you have because you've done it already, and you know you're capable of functioning. See, it's not a surprise when you run out on the football field. It's not a surprise when the other guy runs into you, is it, Vaden? Did that shock you? Yeah. So, yeah, you knew because you'd been in practice that the whole object of the game is, you know, that you're going to make body contact. And so that's what this is. You see, there's a confidence. I have it on the outline, verses 1 through 6. There's the triumph of the warrior's faith. Now, if you've never been one of God's faith warriors, you don't know this. You can't possibly know it. And that's why we have mature men that lead congregations, because the Bible says to imitate their what? Faith. They have the watch over you and imitate their faith. In other words, the mature men are supposed to live lives close to God, where the younger men and women can see their faith and practice it. And once you learn to follow another's lead, then you build your own faith experiences. But you have to build your own. And in doing that, it's a whole lot better to follow somebody. I remember when Ann was old enough to to walk. She never crawled. My wife just worried and worried. And she said, "Oh, Michael, she don't crawl." I said, "Well, so what? She's walking." "Well, I know, but she don't crawl. She's not developing right, and all this kind of thing that mothers worry about their kids." And I said, "Well, maybe I'll take her to the doctor." She took her to the doctor, and the pediatrician said she'll crawl when she wants to. Well, Juliana get down on the floor, and I can't imagine all the antics. She'd crawl around in front of Ann, crawl all over the house. And, and Ann would just look at her like, "Mama, really?" And Juliana just crawl around, crawl around. Now, you have to picture my wife at 23 years old, 24, not, 70. So she's down just scurrying around all over the floor, and Ann just sits there. All right. Finally, Ann just gets up and walks away. Well, then cousin come over, Judy Ann's sister, dropped her little boy down on the floor. Little boy, I think 2 months older than Ann or 2 months younger, I forgot. Anyway, the little boy just went scurrying like a rat, all around on the floor. Ann just fell right in behind him, crawling everywhere. In her mind, it wasn't right for Mama to be crawling. Mamas don't crawl. Mamas just don't crawl. And so as soon as she saw that little person like her crawling, she just jumped. She just crawled, and she crawled everywhere for a while. Had to finally get her back to trying to walk again because she had already walked. Get her back to walking. And so if you don't have somebody to follow that's a good example, it's hard to develop faith. That's why the Bible's so insistent that elders, and the word elder means what? Older, doesn't it? Older men and women have faith. You follow these people. You lead, you follow, or you get out of the way. You get out of the way. And so this first 6 verses is about the confidence I have in God. David would be a good person to follow. And his men followed him because of that. Because my adversaries and my foes, that's that parallelism, they stumbled and fell. He's seen them fall. Though a host should encamp against me, bring a whole army, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise up against me, he's been at war. Remember Goliath and the Philistine army? Yeah, he's been there. Even then will I be confident, he says. So this is absolute trust in God. I'm confident of this. One thing, he says. Now here's the subject matter of faith right here. He says, one thing I've asked of God. What do we normally ask? 1,700. One thing he asked. One thing that I will seek after, that I might dwell in the house of Jehovah all the days of my life. Single purpose. See that? Single purpose. That's the one thing I want. And God will add the rest. Seek you first the kingdom and his righteousness and what? That's right. So that ought to be in our mind. The one thing I want is be close to God. That's what I want. I want to be close to behold the beauty of the Lord. Just let me do that. And the rest will fit in. It will. The rest will fill in. And to inquire in his temple. Maybe we've overdone the go to church thing to the point that we've actually come to believe that that's actually what we do. But to want to know about the church is the brethren, the church is the people. And he says, I want to know the beauty of the Lord and to inquire of his temple. The Bible calls the temple, the church, the temple of God. I want to know. That's the one thing that drives his life, not everything else. And then for an opportunity, take a little time out of your life and come to church. God save us from that. God save us from that. Because that orients us to thinking the real important thing in my life is what I'm doing, and I take a little time out of my life and come to worship. And that is just exactly the opposite of what Bible teaches. Or I'm grateful for the chance. I've heard some say that in prayers. We're grateful for this chance. Is Calvary a chance? Was Calvary a happenstance, you think, just happened, and we're grateful for a fortuitous chance to be here today? Thank you for this chance to be here. Is that for our salvation is based on fortuitous chance? Sometimes I wonder if we realize what we're saying. Well, yeah, you can go into all kind of commentary on it. Yeah, 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 yeah. But it's not add a little Jesus to your life. It's if Jesus is not your all in all, he's your nothing at all. Because he doesn't work in half measures. That's the point. What's the number one thing? One thing I've asked of Jehovah that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of Jehovah all the days of my life. See, that's single purpose. And when you're single-minded, you get a lot more done than when you're just shooting at the whole covey. For in the day of trouble, he will keep me secretly in his pavilion, in the covert of his tabernacle will he hide me. So God's going to keep me. Another figure found later on in the shadow of his wing. So what's this about? This is about a commitment to God, not a once in a while thing. This is a commitment that this is my life. This is the way I function. This is the way I operate, and all the rest of it, and all the rest of it. Walk worthy of your vocation. The Bible says in the book of Ephesians, in your vocation. You know, well, I thought I was an electrician. No, you're not. You're a Christian. The electrician part is how you feed your family. You know, well, I thought I was a marshal. No, you're not. You're a Christian, and the marshal thing is how you feed, Ann, Mike, and Denise, and Judy Ann, and pay the bills and the rent and all that kind of stuff. You know, your vocation's Christianity. And so when you keep your vocation as number one, then the rest of it takes care of itself. That's what the Bible teaches. And we can wash it around any way we want, but it comes down to your vocation is Christianity, and all the rest of it supports that. And that's what the Bible teaches on it. For in the day of trouble, he will keep me secretly. I like that. See, it's not difficult to live godly life when everything's going your way. But it is understandably difficult. And then we crave opportunity to be under the shadow of his wing. He'll lift me up on a rock. Boy, that's powerful. On a rock. There's a place in the Arkansas River where my brother and my nephew almost drowned. They were fishing on the Arkansas River. Now, I'm not talking about a river like the Peace here. The Arkansas River, where they're tearing down the old Broadway Bridge, is a mile wide. And in some places, it's 70 foot deep. And it rolls and it turbulence and it does all that. It's got 6 dams on it. And they tried to check that terrible current so they can use it for navigation. My brother and Wes, his son, was bass fishing. They pulled up on a sandbar to eat a sandwich, get out of the boat, eat a sandwich, and, drink their Gatorade. And they wasn't paying any attention to how the boat was pulled up, and the boat got loose. It's Wes's bass boat. You're talking about a $35,000, $40,000 piece of equipment, and the boat started drifting off in the river. And Wes run down to the river, and Wes is very athletic. Him and Mike look like twins, They do. Him and my son. They look like almost twins. And Wes, he just dove in the river to head for catch the boat. And he hadn't done it in about 2 minutes. He started hollering for help. And then my brother dove in to help his son. And the thing that saved him, right there in that swirl, where they had dumped a bunch of that rock, crushed rock and stuff to build a riprap thing, they managed to hit that rock. And they stayed on that rock till somebody come by and they hollered, and the boat come over and picked them both up. But that rip rock thing was probably about 20 foot wide out in the middle of that river current to help check the current. And if they hadn't hit that current, we'd have had 2 funerals in the family. 2 funerals in the family. And so finding that rock, and Edward told me years later, we were talking about the Lord is my rock and et cetera, because he and I worked 8 years together co-directing Christian Bible Camp, Silver Maple Bible Camp. And he says when we read across this, he'll lift me up on a rock. He says he remembers that Saturday morning on that rock in the Arkansas River where they hit that riprap. It was underwater, but they hit it. And they were able to stand against the current and stand on that riprap until somebody come by, picked them up, and then they went on down the river and recovered their boat. But he will lift me up on a rock, and now shall my head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me, and I will offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I can see my brother in West doing that. And I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto God. He's going to lift up my head. First thing you do when somebody falls or faints or something, first thing you do is pick up their head, isn't it? You pick up their head. You try to ease their head. You try to clear the airway, and you try to pick up their head. That's the first thing you do. And so here's that idea of he will lift up my head above the enemies round about me, or in another figure, he'll help me to stand up straight, lift up my head, and give me the confidence here that I can overcome. That I can overcome. What did we say the first 6 verses are? The triumph of faith. The triumph of faith in the warrior. Confidence. Absolute confidence in Jehovah based on past experience. And because of that experience and the enrichment of it, just one request. And so he's able to sort out all of the things that cause us to be discombobulated, if you will. He sorts it all out. Keep your mind on the Lord. Keep what is the center of your life. Worship toward God. Keep that as the center of your life. It might get rough. It might. You might be out of a job. You might have some tremendous upheavals financially. Or you may have some terrible family times. All that goes on. It does. Life goes on around us. It just does. And there's some things we survive. There's some things that scare us to death. There's health crisis. There's all kind of things. But we just keep on keeping on. Trust the Lord. Trust the Lord. You've had chaos in your life. I think of mine. Judy Ann and I got back on August the 10th one day. FHA had just closed out all the small dairies in the Lost River Valley that had less than 300 milking cows online. They told us that we were done. They were sending trucks to load up the herd, not buy it, load up the herd on Saturday morning, have them ready to go. We were out of business. I took that dairy on 6 years earlier so I could continue there on that Indian Blackfoot Shoshone Reservation to keep preaching there. And I took that dairy on as a means to support myself. And FHA said, you're done. Ronald Reagan came into office, and he said, shut all these dairies down. And ours was L19, and they shut us down. And I told her, I said, well, that's okay. I said, I'll just continue working for the federal government, and we'll move to Arco and get a house, and we'll work there. Yeah, kids went to the mailbox, come in, dumped a bunch of mail, and I'm sitting there talking to Judy Ann. She's washing dishes, crying, because we're losing the farm. And she's crying. And there's a letter there. It's pink. And I opened it up, and it was my dismissal from the Federal Marshal Service. Yeah, there you go. Michael, that money you're counting on is gone right now. Ronald Reagan laid off 66 United States deputy marshals, and my seniority was number 64. 66 of us laid off. lost the dairy that morning, lost the federal job that night or that afternoon, about 2 in the afternoon. And I said, yeah, felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. And about that time, the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was John King, Seneca, Missouri. Brother Crowley, he said, we heard you preach a meeting at such and such, and we're needing a preacher. Would you be interested in moving to Seneca, Missouri? I said, that'll take me about 20 seconds. And I said to Judy Ann, I was holding the phone, and I said, we're going to Missouri to preach. And we left about 2 weeks later, going to Missouri. One of the finest works I've ever been involved in. Congregation, about 300 people. Took care of us. God blessed us. So I know about the turbulence in life. I understand that. So I'm not just sitting up here talking. I've been through these storms, and I know. But the main thing to keep the main thing is keep the Lord first in your life, and the Lord will take care of you. You lose your farm, you lose your federal job and all the benefits and all of that mess, you can lose it all, and the Lord will stay you. He will keep you in his pavilion. There's where my confidence comes from. I've been through these storms. I've been through these storms, and so I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto Jehovah. There's the foundation for my standing up or sitting up here teaching you what I'm saying about put the Lord first in your life, and it'll work out. I'm not just blowing down a hollow tube, because I have experienced this, and I know how it works. David's experienced this, and he knows how it works, and so you can have confidence in your faith. And it's not chance. It is commitment is the word. You commit to the Lord your life, and whether you're milking cows, working for the federal government, or whether you're farming, ranching, digging post holes, as Vaden suggests, we're all going south to dig post holes now. Whether you do that, keep the Lord center of your life. Keep the Lord center of your life, and then you can say, I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto Jehovah. That's what he does. And so the first part of our outline is confidence and one request. Keep me close to the Lord. Because there's enough in this life that will turn you away. There's enough to cause you to say, oh, this is not working. There's enough. Hear, O Jehovah, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy upon me and answer me. When thou saidest, seek ye my face, my heart said unto thee, thy face, Jehovah, will I seek. And so it's not the top of the list. Don't get that in your mind. He's not the top of your list. That's what I was trying to emphasize a while ago about this chance thing. It's not the top of your list. He is your list. He is the list. The whole list and nothing but the list. It's not, well, he's the top on my list. Baloney. He's the list. He's the list, and that's what David says. Seek ye my face. When you said, seek ye my face, my heart, so he's in tune with God. You see that? He's in tune with God, and he said, my heart said, thy face will I seek. Get on the same page with God. God says, seek my face. And then you say, okay, I will. And it'll be a marvelous life you'll live. It will. Now, it may not be in financial bliss, but it'll be a life full of wonderful things in your life. God will bless your family. God will bless your life. You'll have enough. You'll have peace in your heart. You'll lay your head down on your pillow at night, and you'll sleep well. And you'll sleep good. Because you have given your life toward God, and he will shower you with his blessings. It just is. It's just the truth. That's what the Bible says. It's just the truth. It's not a pump up. This is what happens when you live a life of faith and you trust in the fact you've committed to God. It's all right to say, Lord, I've lived for you, and I know you're going to take care of me. Now do it. It's all right to do that. The psalmist does that in the other songs we've looked at, see? Thy face will I seek. Hide not thy face from me. Put not thy servant away in thy anger. You have been my help. So he has confidence. And the past tense of the verb here shows the experience of the past. And so if you practice it, you can do it. And then he says, cast me not off, neither forsake me, O God of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake you, sometimes families are impediments to faith. Did you know that? Yeah. I told a woman one time she didn't have to go to hell with her husband, and she didn't come back. But you don't. Ananias and Sapphira, you read that in the book of Acts. She didn't have to go to hell with him. She could have said to Peter, I know this is wrong, and he wanted to do it anyway, but Peter said, because you've conspired with him, to hell you go. You don't have to go to hell because your family member don't want you going to church or don't live a life of faith. You don't have to do that. Remember, Abraham left family and left them behind. Why? Because they wasn't going with him. Because they wasn't going with him. If you're trying to live for Christ, and if they don't go, come on without them. Come on without them. Well, I've got company, and they don't go to church. You going to stay home with them? You going to stay home with them? What kind of example is that? When my father and my mother forsake me, then Jehovah will take me up. There's nothing more dear probably in our lives than our mothers. There's nothing more of a fixed compass in our life than our fathers. And when those two bastions of strength fail us, it's hard on us. It is. It's hard. We are adrift emotionally. No doubt about it. We are. We are adrift when our father and our mother fail us. We are adrift. And then Jehovah will take me up. So God cares for us. So we cannot blame family discord upon a lack of faith. Can't do it. I don't know where the kids are. We're out of our normal time. I'll wait on the kids. Let me read the rest of this. You take this home with you. This is one of the most powerful psalms that we've looked at in the life of David. And this psalm says one thing: I will trust you regardless of the billows, the waves, the storms, and the sea. I will be found next to you, O God. Teach me thy way, O Jehovah. Lead me in a plain path. Is things complicated in your life? Do they get complicated? Well, they do, don't they? His prayers for what? A plain path. I want to be able to see it. I don't have to search for it. I want to be able to see it. A plain path. Give me a plain path because of mine enemies. Show me how to deal with this. I need a plain path. Deliver me not over unto the will of mine adversary, or for false witnesses or rise up against me, such as breathe out cruelties. You're going to deal with that in your life. There's no doubt about that. All of us do. You're going to deal with it. There's people that's going to say ugly things about you. They're going to say things that are designed to hurt you. That they're going to criticize you. And when they do, pull up on the internet Theodore Roosevelt's what he wrote about the critic. Just read that. What he says about the critic. It's not the critic, he says, that has neither achieved or failed, because the critic normally is not doing anything. And a false witness are against me, and such as breathed out. I had fainted, he said, unless I had believed. See that? In other words, this would have wiped me out unless I'd have had faith to see the goodness of Jehovah in the land of the living. Wait for Jehovah, be strong, and let thy heart take courage. Be strong, and let thy heart take courage. Yea, wait thou for Jehovah. So the whole thing about this waiting on the Lord, just trust. Just trust. You can't be involved. I don't care if you're building hoe handles. You're going to have people that don't like the way you turned it out. And they're going to people say, mean and hateful things. Anytime you're in a leadership capacity, you expect hits because that's just one of the liabilities of developing leadership skills is learning how to work around false witnesses, walk around those that would breathe out cruelties. You're just going to have to trust God and keep on keeping on. That's what he says. Why? Look at the goal. To see the goodness of Jehovah in the land of the living. That's not this earth, because this is the land of death. The land of the living is heaven's reward. There's what you and I are interested in. A life beyond this. A life beyond this. That's a song. This is a warrior psalm, okay? This is a confident warrior. I just love it because it really sets forth the attributes and the faith of one that has been in the arena, has been there. It's a beautiful psalm.